Good morning, Matt. It's great to have you here and great to have you on our very first improvement and innovation event for local government. Real shame you couldn't be there on the day, but we weren't going to miss the opportunity to talk to you about this. I wanted to talk to you specifically because from my perspective, you are one of the most digitally engaged chief execs, and we really wanted to understand from your perspective, some of the reasons why. And, as an example of that, Matt, there's not many chief execs that would respond to a message on Twitter on a Saturday and agree to do something crazy like this. Yeah, I suppose, Matt, if you introduce yourself and give us a bit about where you are, because obviously you're in an interesting organisation, a new organisation. So, over to you, Matt.
Brilliant, Andy. Thanks for that. And thanks for the invite. It was good to have a bit of an exchange while I was sat on the sofa on a Saturday afternoon watching a bit of rugby. So Matt Prosser is Chief Executive of Dorset Council. We're a brand new unitary. We were only created at the 1st of April 2019. So at the start of 2020, when this all started to get a little bit mad, we were only 11 months old as an organisation. I'm the former lead spokesperson for Solace. That sounds like some quasi spying organisation, but it actually stands for Society of Local Authority Chief Executives, disappointingly for me. But I was the lead national spokesperson on digital leadership, which I think came, I got that role because digital is really, really important to me. It has always been, both in terms of application of tech, but also about how we digitally use and create organisations like councils. And here I am in the privileged position of creating one of the first and the newest unitaries in the 2020s for Dorset. So it's been a great opportunity, and we've been able to embed digital in the heart of the new council. And Andy, you and I met as we were talking before this, just briefly before this, on a Remo event where we were using some technology to host a conference, and that was fantastic. And this year's been there's been so many digital firsts this year. I've been far too excited, really. So I didn't want to miss the opportunity to talk to you today, Andy.
Brilliant. Can you tell us a little bit about how things have gone under COVID? Obviously, it's been a really, really challenging year all round. And what sort of things have you been up to support your residents and enable your teams to deliver in these really challenging times?
So really, really good question, Andy. And I guess it's one of the things where you sometimes, as a leader, you look back at decisions you took before something like this hits you and go, was this the right decision? And actually, I feel vindicated that it was the right decision. So one of the things that we did when setting up the council was to separate digital and the functional ICT organisation. So we've got a digital and change team, and we've got our ICT team, so infrastructure and the technology. And that's been really, really important, because obviously when we got that call on the 23rd of March from Boris Johnson to tell us to all lock down, we had already from the week before, in a week, moved to 2,500 colleagues working at home. So on Monday the 16th, there were 1,300 colleagues working at home, and in the period of a week, we enhanced that to 1,200, and that was from a conveyor belt. And I was still in the office then, so I popped down to see the IT guys, and there was a conveyor belt of laptops being built, and I think we built something like the order of 450 laptops in a week, to taking kit out of the offices and distributing it to homes. So from a physical point of being able to go digital and enable us to work from home, the team did a fantastic job, and we've had no failure through that process. Yeah, it's been a bit laggy occasionally, that's more about home providers broadband, but we've supported our teams through that process. And the separate bit was about the digital and change team. Really important that they were separate, because we were then able to use them to go and support our Community Shield offer, which was our work to support our community. And we actually set up Deb Smart, who's our corporate director for digital and change. She headed up what we called our skills agency. And that was a virtual skills agency for staff in the council whose jobs have been stopped because of COVID. So guys working in the leisure centre or countryside or libraries who'd had to close because of government regulation, and suddenly had no job, but had plenty of skills. And so we set up this digital skills agency where we're able to then match people for both the job they did for the council, but more importantly for me, it was what have they done before they'd come to the council? What did they do in their spare time? And then match them to jobs across the organisation. And that was a fabulous resource. And actually, I look back now and think our challenge currently in lockdown 2 has been that most of them have gone back to their normal roles because they haven't had to shut. And so we've had to scrabble around to find some resource to support that community. Supporting the community, we'd already been doing a huge amount of work with digital champions out in our local community. That's volunteers, community organisations, supporting people, organisations, businesses to get online. And we just continue to amplify that through the period of the pandemic and make sure that we're supporting people so they can connect to people, so they can talk to loved ones. We've just launched a Christmas project, a Christmas Champions project, to make sure that as many people as possible in Dorset who are perhaps on their own, isolated, have got some way of connecting. We repurposed old pieces of kit in the council to give out to our looked after children, for example, early in the spring, to make sure ahead of the government announced they were going to give us laptops, but it took them quite a while to mobilise that. We were straight out there with about 300 old Surface Pros so that these young people continue to talk to colleagues, to friends, and still engage in the education system. And we've done the same with our older population as well, supporting schemes to support connectivity.
That's amazing. Yeah, the laptops that were promised were suddenly reduced as well, weren't they? So that was an amazing piece of foresight to just crack on with that. And so important, because we all know those are the children that are suffering even more from lack of education and not being able to access, as well as that social stuff. So you also did a lot of events. I mean, obviously we've kind of touched on the Digital Dorset one, which I thought was brilliant. Some excellent speakers, really interesting stuff about 5G, and really interesting the way you were actively looking to engage the community and businesses in that conversation, but also Digital Leaders Week. I mean, how many events did you run during that? That was just a phenomenal effort across that week.
Well, Andy, thank you. We had I could talk about the 5G piece, but perhaps slightly later. But our Festival of the Future, I think our digital and change team really kind of ran with that week and just wanted to sort of amplify everything that we were doing and our communities around us are doing. And pulled it in, and we had a lot of fun, but we had a lot of events running, and my hat's off to the team who ran a fantastic event throughout the week. I actually don't know how many events we had running, but we had thousands of people listening into the various events. But I got to play a bit, which was great fun. So myself and my director, we hosted a morning show, which was just really to sort of create that festival feel. So we were sat in our virtual camper vans, and curating the day and just sort of giving feedback on what was coming up and what had gone well the day before. And I'm glad that generated some interest because it was a lot of fun, but also really good for our communities to see how Dorset sometimes gets thought of as being perhaps a little bit sleepy. But you know what? Yeah. We're a national 5G rural testbed, doing some amazing stuff there. We've actually got some fantastic high-tech businesses here, from military application through to specific high-tech engineering applications, and all of that digital connectivity is helping us to expand those businesses through this time.
Excellent. So as a digital leader, how do you sort of break down the barriers in the organisation? Because we all know local government, complex organisation, multiple silos, processes cut across those and go through multiple departments. So, a big challenge is how you get an operation or department to engage with the digital team and the ICT team and all the partners that really need to be in there, and focusing on, we are Dorset sort of thing, rather than, we are X department within Dorset. It's that bigger picture stuff. So how do you rally people around that?
So I guess again, it comes back to the privilege of creating a new organisation when you can put some of these things into the kind of the substructure. And for me, that started with the recruitment of my executive team. So all of our recruitment processes at senior levels have got digital competencies and behaviours included within that recruitment process.
Wow.
So one of the things I say to colleagues is, why when I'm trying to run a 21st century business, would I employ somebody who doesn't have 21st century skills and behaviours? Now, that might not mean that they're completely tech savvy, but they're comfortable with exploring it. They're comfortable with the opportunities to learn and to do things differently. I think that's really, really important. And throughout our organisation, clearly, although I created a new organisation, I've got just around 5,000 colleagues working in the council. I wasn't employing 5,000 new people. So we've also put into place opportunities for people to develop and to learn. And we've got a digital champions program in the staffing structure, and just getting people to see that it isn't just about the digital and change team or the ICT team, that actually they're digital champions in their service areas, and pulling all of those strands together is really, really important. And again, come back to the impact that COVID's had on us. We've had virtual teams working seamlessly with people they've never met before in the real world. And that's just been amazing to watch. And for me as a chief exec, we happen to use MS Teams. That's our platform that we use for that. It's been amazing for me as a chief executive to be able to have a sense of visibility that I don't think I had in the physical environment. So dropping into team meetings, I have access to everything on the Teams, the council's team site, so I can pop in and see the comments. I can like a post, or I can just say thank you to individuals. I can pull out the stories, and I think as leaders, it's really important that we're able to tell the compelling narrative, and that we can advocate for the digital solutions. And I can do that. Because I've got access to those stories that I can tell, which is really, really brilliant.
That's brilliant to be dropping into those teams areas, and I'm sure you know this, but I think it's so important. It's so easy to say thanks to people, and it is so important. People who work in public sector, they do it for a reason. They want to help people. That's the majority of the reason, and a little thanks goes a huge long way in terms of giving people motivation. So I mean that is just fantastic. So digital, this is a question I talk with loads of digital leaders about. So I suppose, do you think digital is really a good and a helpful word? So from my perspective, obviously nobody asks for more digital. Our customers want better services. They might say to us, why is your digital solution so bad? But it's not fundamentally that they want a good solution. They want to be able to access what they need and get to the help that they want, the information they want, and those sorts of things. So do you think digital's a good word? Is it helpful?
That's a really interesting question, Andy, and it's a debate that I've got running within colleagues within Solace at the moment, because I said to you I was formerly the lead spokesperson for digital leadership, and I used to qualify that by saying less about the tech and more about the people, so that people didn't think I was some kind of technical expert on digital issues. And I've just moved now into the role where I'm the national lead for leadership and learning. And I'm already having a conversation because one of my deputy spokesperson has now become the lead spokesperson for digital leadership, Alison Mackenzie Folan, who's again a phenomenal chief exec, digitally enabled, running Wigan Council. And we're talking about actually digital leadership in a digital age, or digital leadership. What is it? And actually, is it important? Because isn't it just about modern leadership? So if I was entering the leadership world of local government in the 1960s, the tools that I had available to me in the 1960s would have been those. I would have been looking at the modern tools that I had in the 1960s to use. Digital for me is just a tool to make services better. I think we've got a huge amount that we can learn from our commercial colleagues. you know, you just talked about, you know, people aren't looking for more digital, but they are looking for a good service. And I think for me, that's the important thing, that I would not use the word digital, but about service. You know, we talk about, we've got service design teams. You know, it's really important that we design our services around the people. But we can look at our commercial colleagues and go, you know, why does Sky invest so much in your ability to do stuff yourself, self-management? Is it because there's some fantastically altruistic company that think they just want to empower their customers? Well, no, they do it because, well, fundamentally, it saves money. You know, it reduces costs, and I think that's the important lesson that we need to take into local government. And the thing for people, digital for me, is that it actually can make us more efficient, can deliver a better service to lots of our users, not all, but lots of our users. But then it frees us up. It gives us that efficiency so that our people can spend more time with the most vulnerable in our society who may not be able to access services digitally. It may well be that we support the people who are around them, supporting them digitally. It may well be that we bring applications into the home that allow them to operate a more independent life. So digital is such a smorgasbord, isn't it? It covers so much that I guess, I suppose sometimes the word can be a little bit off-putting. So is it more about just about modern service delivery? But I guess, you know, when we say the word digital, it means so many different things to so many people. Yeah, maybe we do need to think about a new word.
I mean, that's the challenge. I struggle to look at anything we do these days in any business that isn't at least a part of it digital in some way, shape, or form. So that's actually a brilliant segue. So you've talked through it there about some of the things that really matter. You know, money, being able to serve people better, being able to free up resource, so that, you know, really some of this stuff is about freeing up our people so we can use their skills. You know, we don't want them typing thing A into system B that's already been in a system, we've already had it. So I suppose probably the biggest challenge, you know, as I mentioned at the start, the biggest challenge people have around digital is maybe getting the senior leaders to buy in. So do you have any top tips for people about, I mean, obviously you're there, but I've always thought you need to communicate in the right language, and sometimes some of the digital stuff can come over very soft. So the thing you've mentioned there around, you know, it is about savings and it is about time and it is about efficiencies, but is there any top tips? How would you advise people to maybe engage their senior leadership and get that top down buy-in to really changing the services and taking advantage of everything that digital can bring you?
And I think this for me is the fundamental piece about, you know, whether it's about leadership in a digital age or digital leadership. You know, it doesn't really matter. As leaders, whatever you're trying to create, you need to be able to model. You need to be able to role model it. You need to be able to, I don't need to know the details of Bitcoin or the latest AI, but I do need to be able to talk a little bit about it. I do need to understand at least that there are things out there, are tools out there that could help deliver and enhance services. So I think as leaders within this space, you need to know enough to be able to hold that conversation. So if I'm talking to somebody like Lisa Trickey and my team, or Neil Lawrence, Neil perhaps more, you know, to be able to talk about, hold my own in a conversation with them, just enough. I know that Neil knows far more than I do about tech, and Lisa in that sense. So I think from a leadership perspective, it's being able to confidently walk that line and to be able to visibly lead it. So one of the things that I did about 3 or 4 years ago is I visibly went paperless. So I took on I've got a laptop which I use in meetings, but I also took on an iPad which I'd use with a stylus to write. So there was physically no paper, and I refused to accept paper from people. I'm saying, if you really can't email it to me, then I'll just take a photograph of it. And I did that for about 18 months, 2 years, just to physically show, because it takes time to distribute that throughout a big organization. just to physically demonstrate, actually, you can do this. You know, it's not always the right way, and some people like to scribble in a notebook, and scribbling notes on a tablet isn't the necessary right. But I did it because I wanted to almost overplay that leadership piece and visibly show to the organisation. So when I stand up in front of, when I used to stand up in front of the organisation rather than sitting in front of a computer screen like I do now, you know, I would stand up and there wouldn't be a sheet of paper in my hand, there would be my tablet, you know. So it was about sort of demonstrating that. And I think leaders need to remember that you know, organisations will look at what you do, not hear what you say you will do.
Yes.
Leadership is very visual as much as it is, you know, audible or written. You know, so if I stand up and say I'm going to do something, but they see me doing something differently, then, you know, there's no point. So I'm visually demonstrating that having digital capability and skills in the organisation is really important.
So I'll ask you a cheeky question here. Did you get to the ultimate prize with that one? Did you get the councillors going paperless?
Yes, we have, and in my predecessor councils, which was a partnership of 3 councils, we did, and that was brilliant. The brilliant exercise, really. You know, you learn some really, really tough lessons through that. You know, one, never buy kit for your councillors that you wouldn't be prepared to use.
Yeah.
You know, so I did do that once. Occasionally, it got lost in translation, got left with somebody to order the kit, and they decided they'd save a bit of cash because the councillors wouldn't be doing a lot of stuff on these pieces of kit, and the kit wasn't as good as the stuff we had as officers. No, not good news.
No.
The other thing that we did, you know, top tips, we had, I had what I used to call the excuses box. So it had spare power leads, adapters, a spare device with a, what I call a Paddington Bear tag on it. And somebody once asked me, why have you got a Paddington Bear tag on the spare laptops? I said, because it means as chief executive, I can walk into the room and I can see which members have forgotten their device again. And if they do it 3 times, I'll sidle up to them, have a little chat and say, so how's this going with the use of your device? Because I've seen you with a lone device now. Are you not getting the kit you need? And being able to have a conversation. But with the new organisation, we were obviously able to build that in from scratch. And in the process, the 18 months before the new council was created, we very much put digital at the heart of that new operation. You know, and that was included in the material that we gave to the political groups who were selecting people to stand, made it very clear how we would expect members to work and operate in the modern environment. You know, from simple things like all members having a .gov.uk email address and using it, through to them on their introductory day being able to meet the IT team and see the kit that was going to offer for them, and they could choose from a menu of pieces of kit and be given a loan piece of kit right there and then to get them connected. So first up doing that, and we've run some great stuff with the members. We've got the deputy leader of the council leads what we call a digital EAP, executive advisory a group, and they meet and they talk about the digital needs of the members. We've got members site on the Teams site, which is for the digital champions and the digital champions who are members, who are peer-to-peer supporting other members. And I go in, that is brilliant. You'll see these chats going, somebody going, oh, my device is doing this, I don't know what to do. And you think, in times gone by, they'd have gone to the IT team for that.
Yeah.
And actually, you get a chat going, a member pops up and says, oh, sorry for the text font, I'm on a phone on holiday, but if you press this and that, you can get it. But give me a call if you haven't got it. And that's brilliant. It's just liberating to see the elected members supporting themselves and going out and doing that. And again, come back to this year in the pandemic, you know, we've moved seamlessly to running all of our council meetings online, virtually. You know, we see the benefits for the environment, the mileage and the cost, but actually we've got better engagement. We get somewhere like heading towards 500 people viewing a planning committee. We never had 500 people sat in a planning committee.
No,
You know,
I bet most of them you had a fraction of that, you know.
a couple of people, usually.
Yeah.
The applicants.
Yeah.
So the members have gone paperless. They've all got devices. They all know how to use them. They've got a support mechanism, and that's really great because they're great community advocates for what we're doing out on the ground, which is really, really helpful.
You've even got, I noticed last week, I think one of your members doing week notes
We have, yes, Laura Miller. Yeah, yes, Laura's great. Neil has been introduced week notes to the organisation, and he's been commenting on actually needing more women in digital leadership and using week notes and doing that. And so a number of colleagues have joined in that, and I noticed that Laura Miller started doing that. Yeah, she's great. She's a great advocate, and really good to see that.
Yeah, it was great to see you welcoming Neil on Twitter as well when he joined the organisation, which again, it's visible leadership. You know, it's practicing what you preach.
Yeah, he's going to be demanding his paddleboard after 6 months, though. I know that's the online joke between us and stuff. But no, it's good. It is good, and it's great to have people like Neil coming and joining the organisation. And from external perspective, coming in and telling us actually that you're a little bit further ahead than perhaps we thought we were.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's difficult for you to compare yourselves against others. But when you get new people in, I always encourage them to never lose the power of the question why. You know, why do we do things like this? Why don't we do things like that? And always come and tell us where we stand against the outside world, because if we're not good enough, tell us we need to improve. But if we're doing well, then tell us that as well, because that's also great leadership to celebrate success.
Yeah, Fresh Eyes is brilliant for that, being able to benchmark where you really are and pick up some things that you can address before they're problems. That's so important. You know, we are, let's be honest, we've always got the local paper test in public sector. You know, one bad thing can cause you an inordinate amount of strife and ending up at your office and eating up resource in dealing with those problems. So it's really important to avoid them. So that's been brilliant. I suppose just a quick one at the end. I suppose how are your plans coming together post-COVID? Are you looking to still pursue digital, and what sort of things has worked and you're absolutely going to preserve that going forward? Obviously that's a massive question, but you know, if you can give us a little highlight.
I mean, partly it's our journey as a new council. So you'll know that we've just taken on Life for Us new platform, and for me, it's I was part of the work to create and then to engage with the digital declaration. So I had the privilege of chairing the final meeting, I think, when we discussed the final form of the digital declaration for councils to sign up to, and we signed up as Digital Dorset. So we're trying to look at our legacy systems and say how do we carefully take them out of the system and bring in sort of new technologies which are open source platforms, so that we can sort of plug and play and we can join and be more agile. So I think what this year has taught us is we need to continue on that agility journey. We need to stay flexible. We need to continue to up our game in terms of our offer to our users, to our residents and our communities, because we're not their only digital interaction. They benchmark us against, John Lewis or Lidl or Aldi or their bank, or, so we've got all of that we can learn from. And we're just going to look to do more and more, really. We've got a tech lounge that we had in the real world before we moved into a virtual. So we could show people the potential use and application of digital. We'll create that in a virtual environment now. We'll push through the 5G testbed work that we're doing, which is phenomenal. And, for me, it's about looking and saying, actually, what we develop in terms of our digital capability and capacity directly for our users, our residents and our communities, is actually helping to build the environment that our businesses will need to thrive. So it's a win-win. We provide better, more efficient services to our residents, and actually we're growing our economy at the same time.
Brilliant. I mean, what a note to finish on. So I just have to say thank you so much for doing this, and I appreciate it even more knowing that your PA probably had to tell you off because you had been told not to put meetings in, which is fair enough.
For Christmas.
Yes.
Andy, it's a privilege. It's great to talk to you, and really good as always, and look forward to catching up with you again. And apologies I couldn't be with your conference in person, but I hope this goes down okay.
That's brilliant, mate. Thank you so much.